Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers, and welcome back to the Run Testers podcast. In this episode, we are going to be talking about beginner running shoes. So we're going to be chatting through the things that beginners need to be aware of when buying running shoes, tips and tricks on buying your first pair of running shoes, and we're also going to be chatting through some of our top choices for running shoes for beginners. We'll also be having our usual chat about training and races that we are doing at the moment. Right, let's dive in and do the podcast. Evening, gents. How are we doing tonight?
Warm for
muggy evening.
Yeah, it's I just went out for a run and had to come back in and put a vest on. I thought I'd finished my vest season, but no.
Vest season never ends.
Well, it doesn't for Mike Saw, does it?
No, that's true.
There were people I saw. Nick, you were saying yesterday you saw people running. Well, I didn't see people. You were a person running without a top on. There were more people out today. It's September in London. People are running without any tops on. It's mad.
Yeah, I was tops off at the track yesterday. It was great. A really good experience.
A lovely treat for everyone there.
Well, there's no one everyone there. Like I said, the only person who came was the one bloke who came on, saw me with top off, and was delighted to whip his own off. Couldn't wait. It was a really nice moment. We were like, yeah, September, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I even considered taking off one of my layers, but
one of your 7 t-shirts.
Better on it. yeah.
Forever
nice.
ready.
Well, we actually saw each other last night at the Brooks Glycerin Max launch event.
We did. We had a very nice little run around central London, and
even nicer wraps. Were they wraps? What were they?
Tacos, I guess. Very nice tacos. Nice tacos.
They're very good. Yeah.
I have no idea what was in any of them, but they were delicious.
Bit of lamb, some aubergine with some crispy bits. They were nice. Don't know what the crispy bits were, though. You're right. I don't know what that was.
lovely surprise.
Human bones.
We'll talk about the Glycerin Max in a bit, but let's kick off as usual with a bit of an update on training, races. That's it, really. Nick, it's getting close to marathon's time again.
Yeah. Valencia block has kind of started. I raced at the weekend. I told you guys about this last night. I had a pretty gutting experience where I was on to run my first ever sub 70 half, and then in the very last turn on the course, we got sent the wrong way, and it was a short result as a result. So I have got my 20k PB, and I did run 68:58 for 20.95 kilometers. So that's a good time, but I didn't get my first sub 70, so I'm gonna have to do that another time, which is gonna be tricky just because marathon training is gonna kick into gear now. Like the mileage is going to go up, and staying fresh is going to be tricky. But it was a fun race nonetheless. I think Kieran's got some slightly more exotic races coming up, though.
He always does. I'm
off to Switzerland, just outside of Zurich, for a race which in German is called, or Swiss German, called the Greifenseelauf Halbmarathon.
See, now my wife is half Swiss, and I have to tell you, the way they pronounce things in Swiss German, and she won't like this, is like it's a sing-song fairy tale language. So it's the whatever you said like that. They don't pronounce it with that hard German edge. So apologies for any Swiss people there, but yeah,
I have to work on that. They're played over, but yeah. So it's a nice little. It should be good fun. It's like a half marathon round a Swiss lake just outside of Zurich. So yeah, should be flat, should be potentially fast, but hopefully beautiful as well.
Well, you were telling me last night that you're still chasing a couple of PBs this year.
I've got, I mean, I'm only missing out of all of my PBs right up to the 100 mile. From 1 mile to 100, I'm just missing my 1 mile and my half marathon for this year.
Tricky to find a 1 mile event now.
I've got one on Saturday.
Race.
Have you?
Westminster Mile on Saturday, yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Bit late for you. Not ideal for you, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know. How do you set up an official race? Can you set up an official race easily on your own?
I think if you just go run it on a track, we can count it.
Yeah.
Just make sure you start from the mile line, not from the 400 metre line, because there's only 600 metres, 1,600 metres.
Mile races are really hard to find in central London. I remember there was the Westminster Mile. They used to do that City of Westminster Mile.
Well, road ones are, but track ones are very easy to find. It's just you got to wait for this. Yeah, the track one. You got to do a track one.
Does the track one count the same way as a road mile?
Counts more. That's a mile distance. No one road miles are very rare, very few and far between. Yeah.
Does it often they do mile events where it's recognised as a official?
Everything's official on the track, Tom, because it's very easy to measure the course, as you can understand, right?
Will it go on Run Britain rankings?
Yeah. Well, we'll go on Para 10. I don't know about Run Britain, but yeah, Para 10 just feeds into Run Britain, doesn't it? Yeah, of course it would. Any track event will be official because they obviously don't need to get someone to certify the course.
Right.
If Kieran went and done it on the track by himself, that would count, right? Like, it's a track. it's the right distance as long as you're not cheating. Are you cheating?
That's the thing I'm worried about.
You're going to cut halfway across. Oh, I mean, this is all right then. When I get back, that's what I'm going to go and do.
Yeah, you can look out for the Kirby line. 1,609 meters you need, and these watches are too accurate on the track now. You can't fudge it anymore.
I think the half is going to be harder though to get a PB. I think that's the one.
What are you racing in?
In terms of shoes or number of layers,
number of t-shirts.
Yeah, 7 t-shirts. I think I'm going to wear the Hoka Mac X2, which is a bit
bit rogue.
I was tossing up between that and the Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris, but I'm interested to see how those shoes do in a race.
If you don't do it, come do Battersea on the 20th of October with me when I'm going to try and get this official sub 70 after being, missing out.
8.5 laps. 12.
When's that?
To 12.
October.
October 20th, yes. Battersea Park. Everyone head there. It's going to be good fun.
You might just miss the crowds from marathon season.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, it's always busy, isn't it, Battersea? It's going to be interesting with this park run, right? Battersea Park coming soon. I didn't realise that pretty much every event at Battersea limits to about 200 to 300 people. That park run will routinely get 1,000, I think. So
easy. More sometimes.
So how is that going to work?
I don't know. There's not enough space for that many runners around that park.
No, it's I don't know. I feel like, 'cause obviously it's a very fast course. I like fast parkrun courses, but that's not really the point of parkrun, right? You shouldn't be just, it's to encourage participation. In Battersea Park, there's no shortage of runners there on a Saturday anyway. So
But if anyone's, even though parkrun isn't a race, obviously there will be a lot of people going down there to get their fastest time because it's one of the fastest courses you can find.
Perfect, yeah.
But it's going to be a tough one because it's going to be 2 laps. Well, depending on
2 and a tiny bit. Yeah, 2 and a bit. They're not doing. I think the proposed course is basically just the classic course that people do in run throughs and Sri Chimnoy events. So I don't know why they couldn't go around the top part of the park and make it a bit.
Well, 2 laps. There's going to be a lot of catching up with people.
Huge. I mean, people want to people. If it's 1,000 people, some people might not have started by the time people get round a lap.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be interesting.
Well, we'll see. Yeah,
we're going to have a massive knock-on effect on all of the Battersea Park races as well.
This is true. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about really quick parkrun. So kind of if you they're fun and everything, but if you really want a quick time, then sign up, pay for a race, promote, support the racing industry, and go and get yourself a time at a race. Yeah,
I suppose that's the joy of the parkrun, isn't it? They're all different, and you can get your fastest time on a certain course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you do some random your one's crazy now, Tom, isn't it? You're the one nearest you. Burgess, it's was it 5 laps or 3 laps?
It's 5 laps.
5 laps.
Well, 4.8 or something. Actually, I think it might be nearly 6. It's not very nice, basically.
Yeah.
It's a real mental slog. I think I'm gonna have to get a bit addicted to it and try and beat it. But I've only done it once, and I couldn't even break 20 minutes because it's
hilly as well, right?
Really hilly. It's really, really thin. So, and it's not just thin like you've got to jump onto the grass at the side. The grass at the side is like a verge, so you can't jump onto it. So you're sort of like crashing around. It's a bit mad.
Yeah,
but
that sounds a nightmare.
It's not a very busy one. So, I mean, it's busy enough that it causes a problem if you're running fast because you are catching up with people because it's like 5 laps. There's normally like 70 people, I think, max there. So it's not like crazy.
Okay. The winter he'll be drop the numbers a bit. Yeah.
Well, there's another one around here as well now, so I don't know. That one's in a country park, which is meant to be quite nice.
Oh, that sounds nice. Got good old Gunpowder Park near me. Great park run. That's 2 laps. Busiest one. I didn't realise obviously is on Gunpowder Week, the Gunpowder Day, whatever, the 5th of November and all that. So I didn't realise I turned up Gunpowder Day, whatever it's called. And so I turned up there on that day, not really twigging it, thinking, it's slightly cold morning in autumn. Hundreds of people going, what is going on? Are we celebrating Gunpowder Day? Is that what's happening nowadays?
Everybody coming out dressed as runners Guy Fawkes.
With shaky hands. It was good fun though when that happened. But mostly it cools off in the winter a bit because it's a bit out there on the outskirts of London, but it's pretty fast.
Nice. Well, I'm just mentally preparing myself for this mile race on Saturday.
Yeah, it's a good one, mate. It's my friend did that. It's quite fun, isn't it? Because you basically do the Mile, isn't the Mile?
It's just around St James's Park.
Yeah, that is cool. I would like to do that, but my mile, I think my IPB is an indoor mile, which was it's a savage experience, an indoor mile. It's amazing how airless a huge room can feel when you've run a mile around it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can do that, Kieran.
When does that happen? Does that happen often?
The indoor season starts. It probably starts next year. If you're doing it this year, you probably have to find the last couple of outdoor meets. But I mean, just go to track. Well, next time we're both in central London, we'll find a track and I'll pace you around. What do you need to run?
I think 5:17 is my fastest so at the moment. I think
You can beat
I ran that. Was it like Strava Night of the 10Ks in like 2017 or something?
Yeah, you can beat that.
So it's been a while.
Yeah.
That done. Half will be if you don't do it in Zurich, you can come do it. Battersea, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
You've done a Battersea half, haven't you? Both of you've done it. You have not got anything positive to say about that many laps.
No,
I don't mind doing laps. My one thing is I want someone else to sort of be my lap counter. Because I did it. Well, last time I did it, I covered my watches and I was trying to run on feel, and I was like, it's going to be easy to remember how many laps you've done, right?
It's not.
Halfway through, I have no idea whether I finished or not. Or to go in. It's like,
I just hope there's someone to run with that I don't get confused. So basically, you can follow them. And ideally, I'd be in the lead group because then there'll be a bike counting the laps for you, like you say. But usually, there's someone a lot quicker than me at Battersea run through. So I'll, that's something I haven't considered. But I'll be looking at my watch. It'll be a lot easier.
Yeah.
I don't really look at it enough. Like, I just make sure I just check when the K beeps that it's roughly on pace. So
get Mike just to come down for the morning, stand at the side, and just shout at you every time you go past him.
Trusting Mike to keep count.
No, you'll end up doing
hold up a number.
You'll end up doing 30k.
Mike's holding up 11. Well, how would there be 11, Mike?
Right. Well, let's talk kit. Okay, so running shoes out at the moment. There's been a few recently that we've been testing. Any big ones from your side?
Oh, Mac X2, Kieran's new race shoe, is one of my favourite shoes of the whole year, I think. I absolutely adore that shoe. It's my first, I think, the first proper, this might be better than the Speed 4 shoe for me in terms of those plated trainers. It's I really like, I just love them. But I did use them both in one day, and there's not really anything to pick between them. It's just both great shoes. But it's brilliant. I really like that shoe. That's pretty much one of my. I think this year, we did our favourite shoes of last year, and we had 5 each. I think in that I had probably 3 shoes I loved and 2 shoes I was pretty keen on. This year I think there's 10 or 12 shoes I really really love. It feels like an amazing year so far.
Yeah. Also a fan of the X2. My only thing is they don't fit me. I think I probably need to either go for the wide or go half a size up. The fit isn't quite as nice and comfy as the Speed 4. I find the Speed 4 really easy to put on and run.
The upper is the big problem on the Mac, I think, at the back as well. Like, I've not had... Narrow. Hasn't cut me. Has it cut you, Kieran?
It hasn't, but I'm on edge about it.
Yeah, same, yeah.
I don't think I'd like to stew it. My instinct is like if I could run a marathon in the Speed 4, I'm not sure I'd risk it in the X2.
Mac 6 upper.
I think it's a faster enough shoe, but
yeah,
Mac 6 is...
Mac 6 upper on the Mac X2 midsole. Yeah. We're in business.
Yeah.
High praise for the X2 then. Anything else?
Well, we've had the glycerin Max in. I'm enjoying that so far, I have to say.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I've just been out and did a 10k in it. Very much enjoyed that.
Got 30k at the weekend. I'm looking forward to that. It feels like a good, supportive, comfy shoe for long runs.
Yeah. I mean, I'm quite surprised. I haven't actually put it on the scales, but how light it feels for such a big shoe.
It's light. I agree.
Yeah. Like it looks like it's going to be much, much heavier on the foot. It's good. One of the other thing, and we're more about the performance, but 2 shoes from Brooks now they've made that actually are good looking shoes and all, rather than the sort of bit trad. They've actually, and the uppers on both of the Hyperion Max 2 and this one I think are really nice. I think they work really well. There's nice room. Yeah, that's a big change for me. I always found Brooks shoes maybe a little bit kind of on the heavy side in terms of that overall sort of top half of the shoe as well. But
better heel design, I find. Well, I had this with the Ghost Max 2 as well, where I did a run where I did the first half in the Puma Mag Max and then put on the Ghost Max 2, exactly the same weight on the scales, and the Brooks just felt a lot lighter. I don't know if it's just a balance, the way I have the upper is, because they have quite padded uppers, maybe the upper's fairly heavy, so the midsole doesn't feel so bottom heavy, but and the Glycerin Max is not a light shoe. It's pretty standard weight for a big cushion shoe, but it feels much lighter than a lot of those big cushion shoes to me.
Big fan of it, yeah. I've just just put the video up for the New Balance 1080 V14.
Yeah, a lot of comments. People are People are talking a lot about this shoe. I haven't tried this shoe yet.
It's a bit of a funny line over the past few years because obviously there are so many big changes in the V13, made it a lot softer. But it's gone. They've done the same thing that all shoe brands do. When they make a really soft shoe, you get a lot of people saying it's like losing stability. So you have to put a bit of stability back into it. So I think it works quite well. I think it's a nice balance of the older versions and the newer versions. Obviously, it's not soft enough for me. I want the V13 softness, but for most people, I think it's a smart move by New Balance to sort of balance it out a bit. It was a bit of a Marmite shoe, wasn't it? The V13. Some people absolutely loved it because it was soft and really nice for easy runs. And then some people said it's just too soft. Like I want something that's a little bit firmer, a little bit more responsive. But
I found it a bit too soft. But it sounds like the new one's gained a fair bit of weight as well, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like. The older versions did like the 11 and 12. I'd probably use it for the same things I use those shoes for, just like you're ticking off the miles, general running, that sort of thing. It's definitely not a versatile shoe for me. Whereas the V13, I always put that firmly in the easy day run. I would never go fast in that shoe. Whereas this has got a bit more to it, but it's really just sort of you buy one shoe, you like it, that's it, you're done for all your sort of general running. But I don't really see how it fits into a rotation.
It's not your New Balance Balos. Tom's the king of shoes.
Nothing is the New Balance Balos for me. That's my current favourite shoe.
It's a good shoe. Very good shoe, that, to be fair. I really like it as well.
Yeah.
It's a stunner. But it's 200 quid. A lot of 200 quid shoes floating about now these days.
Becoming the norm, isn't it?
Price is rising.
Yes. Yeah. Anything else? Any other shoes you were testing?
No, a lot of watches, though. New Garmin's, new Apples.
Yeah, not got enough wrists again. This is this is like still doing the Enduro and the Phoenix 8 for me, and some other exciting new watches that have landed.
I've been taken to popping the Coros Pace 3 in my pocket for runs to connect to a heart rate monitor throughout, just to get the comparison data, because otherwise it's too many watches on the hands as well as the wrists, and you start to look like a real loser, if I'm honest. Can't be wearing 4 watches on your hands and wrists. Too many people I can bump into who know me in Chingford now and just go,
What new watch videos have we already got on the channel?
Just first looks on the Garmin's. We've got some race video. Kieran did a race with them. I did a race with them as well, but tricky to judge distance when the race is short. And then we've got, I guess, 4 reviews in the coming weeks. We'll have an Apple Watch video probably next week, I think, or 2 even. Probably won't do too much on the Ultra 2 since it's just a change of colour, but we'll maybe do some comparison tests, right?
I saw my first photo of it. I was going to leave it and to do like an unboxing and go, wow, but it's actually quite nice looking, isn't it?
I mean, it will be nice. I mean, as soon as I get it, I go, actually, this is all I wanted was a change of colour. Suddenly, it's a classic. But I'm excited for the bigger screen on the Series 10, which would be nice.
Yeah.
But lots of nice watches floating around. We should probably have to do a watch roundup quite soon. I think we've probably done most releases now. So,
well, when Mike's back from his holiday, you can.
Congratulations to Mr. Saw.
Yeah. So cool. All right then. Well, let's talk about beginner running shoes. Okay, so beginner running shoes is something that we mention quite a lot when we're doing our guides, when we're talking about different types of running shoes. But it's a tricky one because we've never really defined what beginner running shoes are and what beginners look for or what they should be looking for in running shoes. So let's kick this off by saying, what should beginners be looking for when they're buying running shoes?
Who's going to say comfort first?
I'm going to say protection.
Yeah.
Comfort, you're right though,
yeah.
Well, it obviously depends on the beginner, because some people can be super fit from other sports coming into running, but either way, I think if you're new to running, it's quite a high impact sport. It's good to have, I think, a shoe that can protect you. So a fair bit of cushioning, bit of stability, I would say, rather than going for a super soft shoe. I'd get a nice stable cushioned shoe, and I try and pick a pretty kind of neutral shoe all round, a standard shoe, and then kind of learn your preferences after using different shoes, but just go for one that's pretty mass appeal at first rather than something that's too niche.
Yeah. I mean, I know there are sort of studies that say that one of the biggest factors in whether or not something is likely to cause you an injury is whether or not the shoe is comfortable. So you look at sort of gait analysis and other things, but actually, does the shoe feel good? It's one of the it's quite closely linked to how well you run in it and how well your form is. And I think that's just going for, there's a lot of instinct, I think, in those kind of first sort of shoes that you put on. And if you put something on and it almost feels like it's not there, or it just feels right and you've got good comfort and it sort of disappears on the foot, that's probably the one to go for. I think you can sort of trust your gut quite a lot on that. And that's, for me, why it's really important to get into, if you're going to do it first time, to get into a shop and have a feel and put your feet in a lot of different shoes initially. But with some of the characteristics Nick's kind of talked about, stability, decent amount of cushioning. Think about the use case that you're going to have for it as well.
I think, I couldn't agree more. You've got to get into a shop, get some advice there, try different shoes, try different drops, try different levels of cushioning, try different brands. And it's amazing, the science on it, isn't it? Because it all just points to the fact that, no, if your shoe feels right, it's probably the right shoe. Don't be pressured into buying something that doesn't feel right. Just go for what feels good.
Yeah, I think that definitely comfort is a big one, because if we take a beginner as somebody who's maybe doing couch to 5K or just doing shorter miles at the start, comfort is such a big part of that, because it's when you're running along, if there's even the slightest bit of an issue, that can have a big impact on your motivation when you start running. So make sure it's comfortable. You're not running fast, you're not needing plates or anything. Just make sure you've got something that feels really nice initially. And I suppose the other thing as well is, what about things like durability, stuff like that? Are we worried about that?
I think if you go for your standard big cushion shoes from the main brands, that's kind of built in. I would say I wouldn't necessarily have to try and. I mean, don't go for like a racing shoe, because that won't be very durable, I guess. But if you're looking at the kind of shoes we're talking about, I think durability is kind of baked into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Good outsole. Get a good outsole, basically.
Get a good outsole. And I always think ignore marketing campaigns from shoe brands if you're a beginner, because they will all tell you the things that you want to know. But really, the best things is to listen to people that you know already that are running in shoes that they can talk to you about and you can have a look at and see. But also stuff like us, where we're explaining the different shoes that you can get. So every shoe that comes out at the moment says it's the most comfortable, says it's the most cushioned, but that's not always the case, and quite often you're paying a premium for that as well.
It's a quirk of running shoes that they are all advertised as being able to do absolutely everything, which makes it quite hard to pick between them based on that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, then let's the big question: price for beginners. I think there's a general consensus that beginners possibly don't want to spend loads and loads of money on shoes because they're just starting out, and maybe one side of that is, if you're just starting out, you probably don't know what type of shoe you necessarily want, so you don't want to go and spend 200 quid on the latest training shoe and then realize you don't like that sort of shoe and you're going to go somewhere else. But also, there's probably a level of, you don't want to spend a load of money if you're not entirely sure if you're going to enjoy running long term. So value is a big thing when it comes to buying running shoes, which obviously comes down to the big decision of buying new shoes or buying older shoes. So what are your views on that?
I think you can. I think as technologies kind of move on, there are some technologies that you tend to find in the newer shoes that you might not get. But we're at a point now where you go back one or two generations on the shoes, and on the whole, you're going to be able to find shoes that are cheaper that will do the job that you need them to do. We sort of draw out the nuances between different generations of shoes. But if you take us all back kind of 2 years, we were running perfectly happily in shoes back then. Yeah. We were talking about how good they are and things might move on, but you're not necessarily sort of missing out across a kind of broad range of shoes, I don't think, by going older generation. And you can get some real good deals and some good value in there. So I think, definitely keep that an open mind. And I would say you don't have to, the more you spend doesn't mean you're going to get a better shoe overall. The right shoe for you, if you're lucky, will be the one that's 2 gens older and cheaper.
Yeah, I think the only problem with buying older shoes is that it's hard to get info necessarily on the ones that define, how to find them, how to find the sales, that kind of thing. So if we're sticking with the premise, we all agree, go into a running shoe shop, try on a load of shoes, try on the latest models, find out what the model is, go and then look at research at the older models, see if they're still around in running shoes, in running shops, because if you talk to the guys at the running shop, they might still have the old model there. They might be talking about sales and that kind of thing. And definitely I would be looking at an older shoe. It really is just, the tricky bit about that is, how do you know which one to go for an older shoe, other than watching and, looking at videos like this kind of video. But yeah, that's the one I would definitely go for. I think that applies actually to runners, any level, not just new runners. If you're looking for kind of general daily shoes, there's so much value in looking at the previous gen. It's especially with how pricey the new shoes are now.
Yeah, as you say, if you're doing that, you need to have some sort of knowledge about what I find with a lot of my friends who start running is that they will instantly go to the sales section of a running shoe website, and they will just go through and find one that they like the look of that's really cheap, and they'll buy it. They won't have any knowledge of if that shoe is any good. And I would also say there is a reason a lot of the time why those shoes are in a really cheap section of the sales section of a website, because nobody bought them. Even though they may seem really cheap and really good, you're probably not getting the best deal. It doesn't mean that you can't find a shoe that's the same price that isn't far superior. It just means that if you're going for the easiest possible option to find a pair of running shoes when you start, it's probably looking in the sales of running shoe shops. And most people who are beginners probably know the brand names, so they'll go Nike are good, Asics are good, Hoka are good, but they won't know anything about the actual individual shoes that those brands have got. So some of those brands, or all of those brands, have shoes that probably aren't very good for beginners. So if you pick up one of those, you're not going to get the right shoe. So at the end of this video, we will be giving some of our suggestions of the best options that you can get from older versions.
It's really easy to get drawn into looking at those big kind of hero shoes, the big races. I've just been through helping somebody actually find their first set of shoes. They're just training for their first half marathon. They started running in January, and they went out on a Saturday, went into the Nike store, and everybody's like, you need the Alpha Fly. And it's like, well,
you do. We're going to say that at the end, Kieran, I think.
Yeah. And it's like, well, and they look great, and everyone's talking about them. And I've seen people, they'll say, oh, my friends have got them, and they say these are great. And yeah, so it's very easy to get suckered sort of into sort of moving towards those shoes. But often, the less obvious shoes are probably good for beginners as well.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're saying on that one? Only go up for sales or older versions if you know what you're buying.
There are some really good shoes that are fairly cheap on RRP, and if you are stuck and you're not really sure, and those shoes will be picked out as really good options for beginners, and you're prepared to pay the full price, then don't feel put off. Like, there are still really good shoes for beginners, that are full price. But if you're looking for value, and we kind of, like we said at the start, we kind of think beginners often are, then you can definitely find it in the previous version, or even 2 models back of a shoe, like the Brooks Ghost, Brooks Glycerin, the Nike Pegasus. All these shoes have got like 20 or 40 versions in the case of the Pegasus. You can definitely get a good deal on an older one. Okay,
and then the age-old question: do you need more than one pair of shoes?
I mean, my take on this is I think no, not initially. If you choose the right pair and a good pair, that's we talked about earlier, it's nicely versatile. A lot of your miles that you're sort of beginning probably going to be, or should generally be anyway, but going to be at the slower end. So if you've ticked off that sort of nice cushion, comfort and protection, but a shoe that also can do a little bit of up-tempo, so it has that kind of broad utility, I think you can definitely get away with having one shoe. It'll obviously depend on your fitness, as Nick said, or what you're training for, or what your ambitions are and what your goals are. You might want to have more, but I think if you're really just starting out and you're on that sort of couch to 5K, or you're just feeling your way and deciding whether or not you're actually going to like running, I don't think you need more than one shoe at that stage. I think there are plenty of shoes that will cover enough of the types of run that you're going to be undertaking for that first part of your running.
Definitely, yeah. Agree with all of that. And also, stick with one shoe, because you don't know if you're going to like what shoes you're going to like. So if you bought 2 and you're not really keen on either, then maybe just get one shoe. You're probably not running every day when you start out. You probably shouldn't be anyway. So you're using it every other day, every 3 days, whatever. Just learning if you like it, learning if you like running, and even if you're going straight into a marathon training block, which again I don't think is necessarily the best idea, but lots of people do, obviously, because if you get into something like London, you're going to try and run it. Start with one shoe, a nice comfortable shoe, and go from there. Plenty of time. Running's a sport for life, so there's lots of time to buy more shoes down the line.
Yeah, I agree. Although I've got many friends who went a bit mad when they started running and bought like 4 pairs of shoes and lace shoes and stuff like that, and they don't use hardly any of them. Okay, then let's talk about gait analysis, something that most beginner runners probably hear at some point, especially if they've been into running shoe shops. Gait analysis is where they do it in running shoes. You can do it. You don't have to do it on a treadmill, but quite often running shoe shops will have a treadmill in there where you run on it, and the people in the shop will either watch or record your running, and they'll be able to see your form whilst you're running, so they can see if the positioning of your feet and ankles, and use that information to see if you need a special type of shoe. Does that cover it, Nick?
Yes, it does. They're looking for pronation mostly, and if you have like high arches and that kind of thing.
Let's try not to use pronation because it sounded confusing.
They're going to use it in the shops, Tom.
Easy to get wrong, pronation.
If you're rolling excessively inward on your foot when landing, which is quite a common thing to do, which is in the past would lead you automatically be recommended a stability shoe. I would say there's not much backing that up as far as we can tell. Like Kieran said at the start, all the science seems to point to use a shoe that you feel you like the feel of, and that's usually going to be the best case scenario. But I would say the good thing about the state of the market right now of running shoes is there's a lot of inherently stable shoes instead of shoes aiming for stability with medial posting. It's just lots of wide bases, sidewalls of foam, big comfy shoes that are naturally quite stable. And the kind of shoes I'd be using for easy runs anyway, and I think a beginner should be using for all runs anyway. And I wouldn't necessarily... So by all means, get gait analysis, can give you some interesting information about your arches or stuff like that. Yeah. But more important is just to run in a few pairs of shoes. I think the big thing is if you're running in a few pairs of shoes and making sure they're different types of shoes is the most important thing. So look at 10mm drop shoes, 4mm, 6mm drop shoes. Just find something that feels nice to you, rather than worrying about the results of this gait analysis, which it gives some information. And you might want a really stable shoe. You might need a stability shoe and decide that's what feels best. But the feeling is the most important thing, I think.
And listen, I'm going to be a bit mean now, but if you think about getting kind of expert advice, you're going into a shop and you have to think about who's giving that advice and what their experience is and what their aim is. Their aim is to basically sell you shoes that they need to sell from the shelves as well as that. So if you're going into one of those environments in a shop where you're getting gait analysis, if it's not like an independent specialist run store who maybe has a different take, if it's one of the brand stores, they're going to recommend you certain shoes. A little anecdote, I've had gait analysis about 3-4 times. Every time I've got off the treadmill, they say you need a stability shoe. I've been running for, 15 years, whatever it is now, long time, done lots of running. I've never ever really run significantly in a stability shoe apart from for testing for this.
But you fall over every 3 miles, Kieran. You're famously
I'm always injured. To touch wood, I'm very rarely injured. So I think you've got to think about that. I think there's maybe a difference between a gait analysis in a store as well and going to get some specialist gait analysis that might look at other things around your running form. And I think there's also a distinction between what's happening with your arches and your ankles as opposed to what's happening higher up the chain. And running through a bunch of different shoes and seeing... I mean, Tom, I don't know if you remember, we actually went down and did one with Mizuno where they looked at our running economy and our running efficiency in different shoes. And I thought that was a slightly different approach that actually looked at what shoes made you kind of run more economically. And that was... It wasn't about injury, it was about actually...
So I did a podcast a couple of months back now with a company based over in the US, which is all about gait analysis. And that if you're listening to this or watching this and you're really interested in gait analysis, go and listen to that podcast because we talk about a lot of that stuff on the podcast. But where we got to with it on a lot of things is that I think gait analysis, it is useful for some people. Some people have really bad overpronation. And if you're a beginner, you don't know that. It's a useful thing to know straight away. If it's really clear that you're going to have a problem straight away when you start running, then that's information that you need to know. But most people, it's like marginal gains, isn't it? Like you might have a little bit of overpronation, a little bit of underpronation. If it's not a problem, it's not really going to make a difference. The way that they look at it is they're looking at one side for people who are basically beginners trying to understand if they've got the okay form. The other side is elites to see if there's any marginal differences they can make with their running form and gait and everything. And they do the thing with multiple shoes. So they'll test multiple shoes to see how your gait is in all those different shoes. So there's a level of gait analysis. But I do think there's an argument for if you can get it done and it's not costing you loads of money, it's worth having done maybe initially, as long as you sort of take it with a pinch of salt and just don't buy the first stability shoe that you get told to buy. But definitely it's a nice peace of mind to go, there's nothing major wrong with my, pronation or anything like that I need to worry about.
I think in general, people don't need to worry about their form as beginners. I'd say
no. Well, it develops, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Form develops as you run. And when if you take a beginner runner and you look at them run, they're probably going to be running very oddly because they've not done it before. They're not fit. They haven't got the efficiencies of the body to run. The body hasn't worked out the mobility and everything, but the body is quite clever and it will adapt as you continue and you will just get better at running the same way as you get better at most things. So there's definitely an argument for just go out and run and just get better at it until you need to really look at something.
Yeah, and if injuries and stuff arise, that's when you start talking to physios and working out what that's the cause of that is. But
and there's one just to finish. Like there was one study. I'm going to read this out. It's from 2022. I found it. It was when I sort of was researched this for a piece a while back, and their quote is, "The best general recommendation based on the evidence available, considering the least likelihood of harm, is to recommend a shoe that's lightweight, comfortable, and has minimal pronation control technology as possible." That was what they found to be the one that would be the best way to recommend the shoe to people. So it's those things we were talking about. It's light, it's comfortable, it feels good.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say since stability shoes were introduced, the rate of running injuries hasn't changed at all in the last 40 years or whatever it is. So, yeah, if they work for you, great. Please use them because they're going to be the shoe that works for you. And that's the way everything should be, I think.
All right, so the final question, the one that we all like answering, if you were to pick shoes for beginners, what would your top picks be? Kieran, do you want to start that off?
I'm going to go with one that I've tested recently. It's probably a little more pricey maybe than I might recommend, but I think overall, I would think about that. It's got good value because it is quite a versatile shoe and you can use it for all kinds of runs and it's looking pretty durable. I think the Nike Pegasus 41 is a good utility shoe that has just about the right amount of cushioning. It's not too heavy. It's fairly balanced. It's got good stability. I think that one's a kind of a good all-rounder. Mm-hmm. I really love the Saucony Ride 17. Again, I think it's got really good balance. It's not over-cushioned. Some people may feel like they want a bit more, but I feel like it's got good protection. It's got a really nice fit from the uppers. Medium weight. Pretty good value in terms of the price. I think it's £140 in the UK. I think that's quite a good entry-level shoe. Those would probably be two of my big recommendations for people who are just starting out.
And I think Kieran's nailed the exact area I think beginners should look at, which is this across all running brands. There's this band of shoes that is their. So it's still a performance shoe. It's a high level shoe. It's not like one of their really cheap shoes, but it's not the most expensive shoe in their range. It's the Pegasus from Nike. It's the Ride from Saucony. It's the Nova Blast from Asics. The Brooks Ghost, or Glycerin's like a step up, but the Ghost, the Puma Velocity Nitro, all those shoes I think are a really good solid option for beginners, and they all have previous versions. Except the case of the Ride, which I think is a slightly different shoe, but most of them have previous versions I think are very similar and you can look for in sales. And I think that's the band I would look at if I was a beginner. If you're looking for a more premium experience, you then look at stepping up to the Triumph from Saucony or the Glycerin from Brooks. Again, looking at older models first and foremost to try and get that little bit of extra value. But yeah, that is that band of shoes, the Ride, the Pegasus, the Nova Blast, the Velocity. Fantastic shoes, usually in sales, usually the first shoe that goes into a brand sale, even with the newer models, Black Friday coming up. And then the previous models are always really good. And they're just quite balanced shoes. Like I say, they're good for a bit of everything. They're not going to be outlandish. They're probably the shoes the brand doesn't take too many risks with because they're really popular. Hoka Clifton, that's another one, definitely stick in there. And they're going to feel pretty good. They're designed to be accommodating to lots of different runners, so they're probably going to fit you quite well. You can start to learn about your preferences. There's different drops and cushioning levels within those shoes, and I think all of them would be a great option for beginners, and then you start working out which one of them you like the most. So yeah, those would be. There are definitely other models from other brands. Adidas is the Supernova Rise.
Yeah.
What brands haven't I talked about? They're all brands have got one. I'm not leaving anyone out deliberately. And it's just that band of shoes that is designed to be the biggest appeal. Works for lots of runners and should hopefully work for you, and will be cheap if you find a discount.
All right, well, you've made my pick hard because you basically covered every single shoe.
Name some more shoes that Tom might like quickly.
Well, I was just going to go for obviously the Puma Velocity Nitro range. I think that probably would. I don't talk about that shoe as much as you, Nick, but I still think it would be my top pick. It's still the shoe I tell people to get if they're.
I've recommended that to loads of runners, and they've all come back saying they've all been happy. And and then if I'm not recommending that, I'm recommending the Brooks Glycerin or Ghost, and they're all, again, people are always pleased.
Yeah. I'd even throw in, if you did want to spend a bit more money, the New Balance 1080. I think the Nova Blast and the 1080, the most recent versions are the versions that are better for beginners. I think if you go back a version, so the Nova Blast 3 and the 1080 V13, I wouldn't suggest those two for beginners. But obviously, those the Fresh Foam 1080 V14 is a bit pricier than.
Yeah, New Balance they're kind of that price that out of that range. But I suppose if we were talking about shoes, you could, if you are not worried about price, you just want the ultimate cushion beginner shoe. I would probably pick the Saucony Hurricane myself as a stable, very comfortable, pretty great shoe for beginner. It's expensive.
You can't go wrong with it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually this new Brooks Glycerin Max. Again, if price is no object, it's an amazing shoe for beginners, I think.
And the good thing about those shoes is that if you're a beginner and you buy those shoes, or any of those shoes we've mentioned, even the Ghosts and the Pegasus, everything, when you develop and you get more into running, maybe you start racing and you buy more shoes, those shoes are still great. You still use them for loads of your runs. So it's not like you're wasting money on a shoe that you'll never use again. They're shoes that I've still got shoes that, I've had for ages that I still use for my workhorse stuff and just clicking off the miles. But cool. Okay.
I would say on those shoes, like if you look just at the RRP, they are still look quite expensive because all running shoes are expensive these days. But people, once you're into the swing of it, you're probably not paying full price for those shoes. If you've got a bit of patience, if you don't have to start running tomorrow, you've got a bit of time. If you do have to start running tomorrow, you can probably put down Decathlon and get a pretty solid pair of shoes for £100. But I'd say if you've got a bit of patience, especially with the sales period coming up, you should be able to get a set of those shoes for under £100, under $100. I would think.
Yeah, we've got Black Friday coming, haven't we? And nobody has a few.
Black Friday month, so there's definitely going to be deals. And Amazon actually, if you're in the US, I have to look at Amazon US a lot in my my actual job these days. Often has pretty great deals on Brooks shoes. So,
okay. Well, I think that'll do it for best beginner shoe guide. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks. I'm glad someone said that.
Thank you, Kieran.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, mate. Yeah.
A bit awkward now. See you later.
See you later. Bye.
This episode of the podcast was presented by Tom Wheatley, Nick Harris-Fry and Kieran Alger. It was produced by Tom Wheatley. The music was by Fear of Tigers.